How's it going, everybody? I made a video similar to this last season and it was pretty well received, so here we are, a list of undocumented changes and bugs. Well, some of them I'm not entirely sure whether they're bugs or intended behavior. But before we start, let me preface the whole thing. I'm in no way claiming that this is a complete list of all changes and bugs that were introduced with the latest patch. And nor am I claiming to have found all of them myself. I will give credit if I know exactly who discovered it. We're starting with a big unannounced change. Once again, it has to do with stamina. A huge stamina overhaul concerning the out of stamina state is coming soon. So this change here might be in preparation for that, but who knows, that's just me guessing. So, what changed? Hard feints cost less stamina now. To explain this, let me quickly go over how stamina works in For Honor. Every move has a base stamina cost associated to it. In our example here, that is 12 stamina for the Shaolin Heavy. That is also the cost of the attack on a successful hit. Now, depending on the other outcomes, that stamina cost changes. On a whiff, for example, that value gets multiplied by 1.75. On a block, that factor is 2.5. And now for a feinted attack, you can see it costs 22 stamina. This is because of the new changes. A feint adds a flat 10 extra stamina to the base cost. Previously, a feint was treated as a whiffed attack, and then the additional 10 stamina was added on top of all that. Now hard feints cost considerably less compared to before. All other values like superior block, parry, and so on remain the same. The same also goes for soft feints. It still is considered a whiff, and then the cost of the attack you feint into gets added on top. So only hard feints are affected by this change. All these values can be found in the spreadsheet that has all the numbers you can wish for, from an attack's damage, speed, or stamina cost. It will be linked in the description. Credit for finding out how stamina works goes to, I'm probably butchering the name, Werf. I'm sorry man, if you see this, just call me out. Also a huge thanks to Captain Walwa for telling me about the changes. But now for the highlight everyone was waiting for. It wouldn't be a new patch without a Shugoki nerf, now would it? We're staying with stamina costs. The patch notes mention stamina fixes for his charged attacks. But that's not all. Shugoki's stamina cost has always worked differently compared to the rest of the cost. I'm not gonna go into great detail, but just know that all of Shugoki's heavies had an additional flat cost added on top. That value was 9, and now it's 21. This is added to everything but his hard feints. As you can see, a hard feint is still 22, meaning 12 base value and 10 flat cost for the feint. Don't ask me why they changed that or why Shugoki is special in that regard to begin with. Moving on to one of the hot topics that came with this season. Everyone was bitching about how parries are different now. So let me just say this, parries still behave exactly the same as far as I can tell. But I can offer two possible reasons why you might think this is the case. First of all, the introduction of 4 new characters whose animations are still not ingrained in your memory. On top of these animations being new, some of them are also quite deceptive. Jungjun is the main offender here. Because they kept changing the speed of his attacks throughout his development cycle, some of his attacks cost damage before the weapon model even connects with you. The other reason is actually a little worse. By now, all of you who are watching my channel should know that the parry window is 200 milliseconds. When you throw an attack while out of stamina, that window becomes 400 milliseconds. So far so good. Just that Jung Jun doesn't really follow that rule. His heavies still have the 200 millisecond window. You can clearly see that the parry flicker occurs long after the attack passes the indicator. And you should also be able to clearly tell that my parry attempts fail despite it being during that indicator. His lights are fine, it's just his heavies that behave this way. But he's not the only character who has that issue. I actually slept on reporting this for I don't know how many months, but Highlander has the same problem. His right side heavy also has a shorter parry window than it should. Top and left are working fine, it's just the right side where it's bugged. We're staying with Jung Jun for the next one as well. I think a lot of you might remember that Roman once said that a lot of Jung Jun's attacks will be like zone attacks. For quite a while we weren't sure what this meant and we just assumed that they were sweeping attacks with long reach. What we didn't think of was the fact that zone attacks ignore superior block. And the same is true for all of his side heavies. So this might be an intended game mechanic even if it's not mentioned anywhere. So either they forgot to put it in his move list description, or this is unintended. But as you can see, you can continue with your moveset despite hitting the superior block. Yoseii has done tests with all of the possible moves. I will link to her two Reddit posts. There you can see what it counters and what can mix you up. Moving on to another one of the new characters, TND. A few months ago Ubisoft standardized the dodge recovery for side and back dodges. Sides are 600 and back dodge 800. So far so good. Everything's in order. But when you add an additional guard switch, then we have the problem. It should just add the 100 milliseconds because of normal guard switch delay. TND on the other hand has an additional 300 milliseconds on top of all that before his guard switch registers. Only back dodge is affected by this, side dodge works just fine. Next is Shaolin. We have three things we're going to talk about with him. First is the fact that he can feint his top unblockable from cheese stance right back into cheese stance. This only works if you enter the stance via a light, then you keep holding the heavy button and feint. He will go right back into cheese stance. I personally really love that this exists and I hope they keep it in the game, whether it was intended or not. Just to add to it, you cannot change your guard while going back into cheese stance, otherwise this will cancel it back to neutral. Next issue is with stamina cost again. Once again, I'm not sure whether it is intended or not, but depending on the attack you've entered cheese stance with, follow-up moves cost a different amount of stamina. Entering from a heavy make the attacks more costly. Third issue is about his crushing counters when used against external attacks. Credit goes to Berserker for finding it. If YouTube allows me to, a link to his channel should pop up right now, but you'll find the link down below as well. The problem we have here is that the move doesn't follow the usual external attack rules. You need to treat the attacks as if you were locked on to the person you're external blocking, meaning if the guy throws a right attack, you need to crush and counter to the left. It won't work if you merely CC the direction he's standing at. A lot of times you only see half a character model and being able to tell what direction the attack is being thrown from is pretty much impossible. All other superior block moves follow the standard external blocking rules, yet Shaolin's move doesn't. And the last change every Berserker player is painfully aware of by now is that his out of stamina throw punish has changed. My hypothesis is that Yoseii changed forward throw distance on all characters, but most characters either have long enough range or don't use forward throws for their punishes, so they haven't noticed yet. But for Berserker this means that his first heavy will whiff unless you can throw them into a wall to shorten the distance. For now, you have two options. You either still throw them forward, then do a forward dodge light into side heavy into light. Or, if your guard is on the side, you can throw them backwards and get the old double heavy punish. I think it's an unintended change, no real reason to lower his punishes. And that's it. Feel free to post more of your findings down below, I'll gladly test and confirm or deny it. Thanks to everybody whose findings are listed here as well. If you want to claim credit, feel free to let me know. I hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.